tonight, and evidently I don't matter to myself, so hopefully you know who I am. I'd like to go ahead and start off. This is the Centerville Community School District. We'll start with our mission statement. All students will learn well, become lifelong learners, and contribute positively to society. This is a regular board meeting on January 8th, 2024 at 5:30 p.m. in the Centerville Administrative Offices. We'd like to call the regular board meeting to order with a roll call, please.
Berger.
Here.
Carter.
Here.
Heffron. Here. Johnson.
Here.
Moore.
Here.
Thomas.
Here.
Viscus.
Here. I forgot my statement to read that the behave well if you're going to speak at the public forum, but if there are any visitors that would like to speak in our public forum, please do so now. Seeing none, we'll move on to approving the agenda.
Motion approved. Second.
Motion second to approve the agenda. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? Thank you. Next item is to approve the minutes of the previous meeting.
Motion approved. Second.
We have a motion, a second to approve the minutes from the previous meetings. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? Okay. Next item, we're going to have two closed sessions tonight. Okay. They are going to be very similar from a procedural standpoint. Yep. However, because we are talking about two different legal cases, we do need to have two separate closed sessions, one for each. And when we're in the first closed session, we're only going to talk about the one case and not the second case. And then we'll come out of that, we'll go back into a second closed session. And then we'll only talk about the second case, and a lot of that has to do with procedural, recording, and minutes, and that kind of stuff. So, for those of you who've never been in a closed session, this will be a little bit of a new thing. Some of us have done this several times. So, the first thing that I want to do before we go into closed session, we are authorized to go into closed session on Iowa Code Section 21.5, Paragraph 1, Paragraph C. And that is to discuss strategy with counsel in matters that are presently in litigation, where disclosure would likely be prejudice or disadvantage the position of the governmental body in that litigation. So it is basically to discuss a lawsuit that the litigation that the district is currently in. Does everybody understand that is what the purpose of the meeting is for?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Doug, since you are our counsel here, is it your opinion that this closed session meets Iowa Code?
Yes, it does.
And does that, even though verbally, is that your formal opinion?
Yes, it is.
Thank you. Does anybody on the board have any questions about Chapter 21 of the code? Okay. I'd like to remind the board that while we're in closed sessions, that all discussions must comply with the requirements of Chapter 21, and that we may only discuss the matters authorized by the closed session, the provisions of 21, which Doug will go through, which case we're doing at what time when we do get into closed session. Having said that, I need somebody to make a motion as written, so please read the motion out, and then a second, and we'll do a roll call to go into closed session.
Make a motion to go into closed session per paragraph.
Well, go ahead and read the whole thing. You need to read.
To discuss strategy with counsel in matters that are presently in litigation where disclosure would likely be prejudice or disadvantage the position of the governmental body in that litigation. And with Iowa Code Section 21.5 sub 1C.
Need a second for that?
Second.
We have a motion, a second, roll call, please.
Berger.
Yes.
Carter.
Yes.
Heffron. Yes. Johnson.
Yes.
Moore.
Yes.
Thomas.
Yes.
Viscus.
Yes. Okay, at this point, we are in closed session, so I will have to ask our visitors. All right, everybody, we are back. We are back in open session for a very brief amount of time. So we did conclude our first closed session. We are now going to take that was item 5, we're going to take up item 6, which there's another closed session. We've been advised by counsel that this one should be shorter than the last one for those of you who are online wanting to see all of the new business. We just don't know how long that's going to be. But to go into the next closed session, the second closed session, it will be to the process I'm gonna go through is exactly the same that I did for the first one. But we're gonna procedurally go through this. The closed session will be to discuss strategy with counsel in matters that are presently in litigation where disclosure would be likely to prejudice or disadvantage that position of the governmental body in that litigation per Iowa Code Section 21.5(1)(c). Now, before we do that, I just want to again ask everybody, you're familiar with Iowa Code Chapter 21 on open and closed meetings? We're in open session.
Oh,
Yes. Okay, Doug, as our attorney, does the purpose of this meeting meet and qualify under the law?
It does.
And is that your formal, though verbal opinion?
It is.
Thank you. Does anyone on the board have any questions regarding Chapter 20 of the code before we do go into closed session? Okay, I'd like to remind the board that while in closed session that all discussions must comply with the requirements of Chapter 21, that we may only discuss the matters authorized by the closed session for the provisions of Chapter 21. Are there any questions at this time before we have a motion and a second? Seeing no questions, I would like somebody to read the motion and somebody to second, and then we'll have a roll call vote, please.
motion. Motion to go into closed session to discuss strategy with counsel in matters that are presently in litigation or disclosure would be likely to prejudice or disadvantage the position of the governmental body in that litigation, Iowa Code Section 21.5, subsection 1, subsection C.
Second.
We have a motion and a second before we go into closed session. As stated, please, Lisa, if you would, you do a roll call.
Berger,
Yes.
Carter,
Yes.
Heffron. Yes. Johnson,
Yes.
Moore,
Yes.
Thomas,
Yes.
Liscus.
Yes. We are now in closed session, so everybody online, just thank you for your patience. We'll be back as soon as we can. I'd like to welcome everyone back. Thank you for your patience as we do these closed sessions. As once Mark comes back from his little break time, we'll go ahead and get started. There he is. Okay. So we are on to new business. And A is to approve the official district newspaper.
Well, we got an old business first.
Oh, we got old business?
Well, just to say that we've had that.
Oh,
We did that.
oh,
Sorry.
yes. For the record, we do not have any old business. Thank you. On to new business. The first thing is to,
Sorry.
yeah, it's been a long meeting already, to approve the official district newspaper.
Motion to approve the official district newspaper.
I'll second.
We have a motion and a second. Go ahead. All right, that would be After This Weekly. So we have a motion and a second to approve After This Weekly as official district newspaper. All in favor, signify by saying aye. Aye. All opposed? Thank you. We need to approve Power School contract as in your board packet. Mark, anything you want to say on it?
This is our student information system. This is what we use to complete state reports, to take attendance, to do all the things that we do for student information. What's that?
As a parent, I love it.
Yeah, it's got a lot of useful tools for us to communicate with parents. We use it also to populate our
Thanks, Ben.
inclement weather communication system, which will likely be used this evening, soon. So, really important for us, obviously, for the two things that we need to keep.
Motion to approve.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to approve the Power School annual contract. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Okay. Item C, approve the second reading of the board policies, 401.01, 503.01, 503.0101, 503.02, 503.08R1. Mark, do we want to take these by exception, since we already went through the first reading? Do you want to just kind of go through the exceptions?
So the packet that Lisa gave to you, separate, the little one here, is the policies that, that we had changes on, and this is to make those changes. Now, I did put some notes on one of them, and so most of our changes were things like a misspelling showed up in there. In the case of 503.8R1, that's the first one in your packet, it called for the ability for a district to define level 1, level 2, and level 3.
Right.
However, later in the policy, it says how you might see those differently based on the age or the developmental level of the student. So we eliminated that specific call out. There was a blank for what the district will use to consider incidents occurring in close proximity. So we put the recommended this school year as that. And we put the bullet points there on the first page. Both of those sets of bullet points are items that we kind of had some ability to use. So considerations for determining maturity of the student, we put chronological age of the student, cognitive or developmental delays, and other factors deemed appropriate by licensed staff and service providers. We included the service providers bit in case we're working with a mental health professional that may have feedback to give on that. And then down below, just some bullet, I'm sorry, that second paragraph is not one that we had anything to change with. The second set of bullets, just the top one is the one we were allowed to change. So just kind of trying to give the ability for us to pin it in based on mental health needs and chronological age largely. 903.5, there was a change. It said distribution instead of distribution, so we made that change to fix that spelling. The same is true in 903.5 R1, and also there was a spot in 903.5 R1 where about the middle of that first page, it said categories 1 through 4 and 5 and 6, but when we moved it over to Word, it changed those to A, B, C, D, E, and rather than changing it below, we changed it above so that it all lines up correctly. 904.4 was one of those two policies that is not in the exemplar and there really isn't a need for. In this case, we chose to, at that meeting, to strike that one. We kept the policy related to activity passes for senior citizens. That was one that we felt was a good option for us. 905.1, so here is where maybe the biggest discussion for our group would make sense today, and that's just around the fees. I put some potential suggested numbers. We did talk about how our fees were probably too low. They hadn't been adjusted in a long time for renting various spaces. We also eliminated kitchens as a rentable facility, largely around our Safe Serve certification and everything on that nature. Eliminated computer labs, as we don't really have a lot of computer labs. And we did put other facilities as approved as an option. I recommended in this one to raise our fees, just kind of what I felt was kind of a reasonable amount. So like high school auditorium from 75 to 100, gymnasium from 35 to 75, the dining area from 15 to 50, then band or vocal room from 20 to 75, classroom from 10 to 50. And this is because there's actually a cost in opening these spaces up to people.
But these fees then cover like custodial,
So we've got it in here to be able to bill for custodial fees still too. You know, and we could certainly look at, there may be some items. Again, we've also got the purview as a board, and some of these are spelled out that some groups get to use these for free, like the Boy Scouts and the Girl Scouts, the Concert Association, we don't charge the, yeah, so we've got a lot of different groups that use them for free, so this is largely going to be people, you know, wanting to host a birthday party there or something, or a for-profit organization, doing, you know, a recital or something.
Wasn't there also someplace in here, that I read that when a group is in there, they have to have a school employee there?
We've got that in our policy there, yep.
Okay.
And so a lot of times with like the auditorium, for example, Tyler Morgan is often there with his auditorium manager role. It could be a custodian who serves as the school employee who's on hand for an event. And this is largely around, we've had events where, for example, there was a case earlier in the year where a fire alarm went off when somebody was using a facility. And you know, having a person there allows us to respond quickly and avoid any fees or anything for that.
So there is is no fee for Lakeview Gymnasium.
Did I miss that one? I'm sorry.
I guess my suggestion
No, it
would
says,
be,
oh, not available, yeah.
my suggestion would be the same fee for all gyms and all schools.
Same fee for all gyms, so 100, you think 100 for all of them, or
Split the difference and.
kind of leave them there?
My suggestion.
What'd you say, how much?
I said 100.
Okay. If everybody's comfortable with that, I can make that change on the final deal here.
Because the Howard Old Gym doesn't have a fee either, does it?
It's,
Or it's
for some
dropped
reason,
down.
it all drops
It
down
drops.
the line on this
Okay.
printout, I'm not sure why.
The old gym has a lower fee than the newer gym.
Yeah, and that's what I had put in my suggestion, and I don't think, I wanna say we don't charge the YMCA, for example.
Yeah.
And that's a group that uses that old gym pretty frequently, for the youth basketball,
I would agree with them being exempt from that.
yeah. I didn't wanna go so high that it seemed ridiculous, so I tried to keep them still relatively low.
Well, I mean, if some group's gonna come in for a couple hours, you gotta have a school employee, $50 is barely break even.
Yeah,
So to me, that's a reasonable to recoup the cost of the employee.
yeah,
Well, and if we're not doing any kitchens, there's this one line at the bottom paragraph that talks about the school trained kitchen employee. Do we need that if we're not gonna?
no, we probably don't, that's a good point, yeah. I could put that straight through.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Those changes, I think it's
Seems reasonable.
updated and.
Okay.
You could not do it.
Any other questions or comments on this series?
I would like to go back to 503.08, first page,
Okay.
okay? At the very, very bottom, the next to last paragraph where it says, in considering whether a threat or incident of violence will directly affect the good order and efficient management. In the past, we have had staff that were assaulted and it was up to that particular staff member whether they were to press charges or not.
So the district, only an individual can press charges. And that's always been my understanding. Am I incorrect in that I, as the district, could not file charges on behalf of an individual?
Not for a case like that.
We can file trespass, I think.
Trespass, disorderly conduct, and things like that, but for an assault case, or
It
something
has to
like that,
be
it has to be the individual themselves.
Okay, that clarifies it for me.
Okay.
Because we had some of that in the previous district I worked in, and that was the legal advice that we'd received there, so I'm glad to see that that's accurate.
Okay. No other questions?
Okay. Anybody else have any questions on this series? Then I
Motion to approve with the corrections stated.
And so that would be for C for the, really, that's your,
Yeah, the seat.
Policy primer
Item
ones.
C. Yep,
yeah.
we're just doing
So
that.
really, 503.8R1 is the only one that we just reviewed that applies to C.
So, motion to approve with the changes.
Second.
Motion is second to approve the second reading of the board policies under item C. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye, all opposed? There we go. Their policies are approved. Now, the next one is the second reading of board policies 900 series. So, same thing, we've gone through these policy by policy and gave our comments to Mark, so I'll give Mark a chance to.
Well, sorry I went out of order there to do it, to talk through all of those.
So we were, yeah.
So again, that's all of the,
So that's all the 900.
right, all the 900 series that we discussed applies to this
Okay,
item.
just want to make sure that that was all,
Sorry about that.
that's okay, that's okay. That's why we're clarifying.
Motion to approve second reading 900 series.
Second.
Motion second to approve the second reading of the 900 series policies. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion passes. All right, at-risk dropout. We're going to approve the at-risk dropout grant application for next year. that you, Lisa?
Yeah, I guess so. It's the annual item for us to go to the SBRC for the, dropout prevention. Just get on here. We have the budget in the packet. That budget is based on our budget and program this year. If you decide to make any changes to that in the next year, it's okay, because you're just, I mean, you're approving the application and to approve and then money amount. And that amount is
Sorry, my screen wouldn't load, I was gonna get that for you while you were talking.
$509,515.
Motion to approve.
Second.
We have a motion, a second, to approve the at-risk dropout grant for 24-25. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Right.
Aye. All opposed? And the motion passes. Get it down to Aaron's deal.
Yep.
All right, so next thing is approve our summer projects. And before we get into this, I'm gonna just say, this is a very good deal, because walking through the buildings, having a long-term plan, for those board members that have been here for a while, we used to get these in June. And here now, and they didn't all get done. And now we're sitting here in January approving, that gives them time to execute. So my hats off and I'm struggling for English.
No, you're good.
Commendations and whatever to you and to Aaron for doing this.
Aaron's been really on top of
Yeah,
this.
so really appreciate the effort.
And I asked him to not, I told him he did not need to come tonight, because, he's gonna be up early tomorrow morning
Yeah,
shoveling.
Aaron's on the ball.
yeah,
Yeah.
He is.
but to have this done is, I mean, this is really the intent of what we're trying to get some changes done, so thank you to you and to staff.
So, just to kind of go through those, you do have a bid for some painting. I know we kind of talked about our goal moving forward would be to have our own people painting this summer. I'm gonna tell you, we're going to be activating all of our folks, and then maybe some extra help, just to get things moved into the new building and set up. We've got a lot of items. For example, we're taking all the third floor, casework from the old building that's all very nice still from when it was redone, which feels like just yesterday, but I guess it was really like 15, 20 years ago or something. But it's still in really good shape, and replacing some much older casework, so they'll be hanging cabinets and doing things of that nature over the course of the summer, and just getting that new building prepped. So we did bid out for some painting so that we can have everything look fresh and nice for the new year. You've got a bid for, let's see, this is the vinyl, this is the tile. The second bid there is tile for the front hallway at Howard, so that 6th grade hallway at Howard. So that's also the place that's getting the casework from the 3rd floor of high school. So when those teachers walk in the fall, it's gonna feel like a brand new classroom. And I was pretty excited to get to kind of share that with some of them in the lounge last week, and definitely heard some pretty excited people about getting rid of some of the old, I think it's green tile on the floor. So there's some asbestos abatement that'll happen along with that, and it's lovely stuff.
So the hallway stays and the classroom's good.
The hallway stays, because that's Terrazzo,
Yep.
I always say that wrong.
Expensive stuff.
Yeah, the stuff that nobody can afford anymore.
Man, that stuff lasts forever.
Yeah.
We'll get all the great.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then we've got a bid for, sorry, I need better glasses apparently. I'm gonna have to go get that done.
I know a guy.
You know a guy. There's some cabinetry to be installed for guidance counselor common area, which will be to help with, it's the, I forget what they call that, but they keep some clothes there for kids in need and that kind of thing, so it's some storage. And then some art room storage. I believe that's the Howard art room, yeah. Yeah, Howard art room. Then you've got a bid for school lockers. which are for Howard, to be
Sure.
installed.
Are those replacements or?
Replacements, yep. And that'll be another freshening up for that building. The nice thing about, the completion of the high school, is we kinda had an opportunity to really refresh Howard with some stuff already, so we reworked some items on the long-range plan to fit those lockers in at the same time, so that maybe we can give a nice fresh start to a new year. Esco Electric, I wanna make sure that I get that all right, we got some smoke detectors, a pull station, and then speakers, this is related to like fire notification, I think we put a couple lights, in a couple of places, that are kinda louder, like the band room and the, weight room? Commons area. So that's something that we kinda heard is kind of a smart thing to do now, and a lot of districts are doing, is using a flashing strobe light to help supplement some of the sound, notification, to help with that. So that's all those bids there. Didn't even have to call them, correct, pretty good.
My only question on that was the slope tops on the lockers, is that just to keep kids from, don't call
I
me.
mean, it might have been an aesthetic.
So I can tell you why they have
Once
slopes.
it's good.
Horizontal surfaces attract and retain way too much stuff.
That's what I assumed.
That's a fair point.
Don't call me.
It could have been aesthetic too, I mean, to be honest.
Well, cause I mean, that's what's there now.
Yeah,
There's, yeah, it just, horizontal surfaces collect stuff.
that's a fair point.
Easier to dust.
Fair too.
Motion to approve summer project bids.
I'll second.
Motion and second to approve the summer, projects bids. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Love when a plan comes together.
Works out.
That is awesome, okay. Approve personnel business procedures. Resignations, transfers, employee contracts, volunteer agreements, sports, Mark, anything you wanna?
Well, I think it's probably, there's probably one item that drew your eye. We have a teacher who is resigning mid-year and listed some personal reasons. I have vetted those personal reasons with that teacher. There's reasons for their own, I'd say, maybe safety is probably a fair reason to say it. It's probably not good for me to share a lot of those details, publicly. But I can tell you, after listening to the situation, I think that it's warranted. We have lined up, just in case the board would approve that, proper coverage, for the rest of the year. We've got the Board of Educational Examiners has already approved our proposed long-term sub, for that position. And actually, I'll tell you, the long-term sub is, Keely in our office, who's working to get her teaching license, and very excited about that. Really great lady. I think she'll do a nice job for us.
What was the name again?
Keely Castle, fantastic gal, and she'll do a real good job for us. And I think she's pretty excited about it, which is great. I did ask the teacher who's resigning about her willingness to finish the year for our virtual program, because she holds a license that's a pretty challenging license in that area for us to get a science license, and so she is willing to, at a distance, still fulfill those responsibilities. So I did ask her to put a later resignation date on her letter for the science portion of that, so that or the virtual portion of that, so that we wouldn't be scrambling last minute to try to figure out what we do for our virtual kids for science courses. And she was amenable to that, and I think, because that can be done at a distance, the concerns that she's got in her personal life aren't affected by that.
Motion to approve personnel business procedures as presented.
Second.
We have a motion second to approve the personal business procedures as listed in the board packet. All in favor, signify by saying aye. Aye. All opposed? Those are approved. Financial reports.
I just wanted to point out that I inadvertently left out a couple of bills. So you have your additional bills, and then you have the two that I gave you for the tree system, so I just wanted to make sure those get on.
Any questions about any of the financial reports or bills to be paid?
Motion to approve. There it is.
Motion and second to approve the financial reports and pay the bills. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. All opposed? Passes. All right. Superintendent report.
Well, I think, obviously, a pretty serious item to open with. We had a big tragedy in our state, last week with what happened in Gary. The school folks there did a lot of right things, to help protect kids and, you know, just a horrible situation, and our hearts are with, the folks there in Perry in a big way. What you often hear after things like this is a lot of Monday morning quarterbacks who will say things like, well, this policy should be this way, or that policy should be that way. And I would caution us, from thinking that way. Our safety plan, has been vetted through our local law enforcement and emergency management, and continues to be vetted. In fact, I will tell you that afternoon, I met with Mike to go over an item that I wanted to clarify in my own head. We are consistently evaluating the items within our safety plan. You know, I think so often we've seen these things, and it's been in bigger communities, and it's been in some faraway place, and this one hits a little differently for everybody. Right here in Iowa, in a town not much bigger than us. We are continuing our work through the safety grant, to try to improve the security of our facilities. Cameras have been started to be installed. I think a lot of the lines for them have been run, and I know Cameron, I'm probably butchering the way to say that, but the wires that hook the cameras up have been run through the ceilings, and they'll start putting the cameras in. We've started our work to update our locks. In this case, I think, the case that we saw this week, there were some people who needed to make a decision to shelter in a place, and thank goodness they had access to that place, even though it seemed like it was kind of around a common area, so it may not have been where their own classroom was, but they were able to find a place, and you know, that's one thing that we've got available for our teachers. And we're continuing to work with law enforcement and emergency management to keep looking at things. We've got a couple tabletop plans that I'd like to go through with my administrative team. Just kind of watching what developed. And we'll, again, this summer come together with the various agencies and review our plan another time, and keep seeing what we learn from the field and what we need to do to grow. Other than that, this last couple weeks, we've been doing a lot of work on lining up, going to job fairs in the next couple months. So we've got 3 job fairs lined up. And I think I shared this in one of my weekly emails, but I just want to make sure that people know I'll be going to UNI, Iowa State, and Northwest Missouri State, in Maryville, to recruit teachers. Actually, Terry Schofield is going to one of those with me. Julie Caraccio is going to another, and Brad Warren will be going to the third. I can't remember who's on which location specifically, but we're gonna try to spread that out a little bit, see if we can recruit some people to come to our awesome town and teach with us. If you know of somebody who is looking for a gig, we may well have something for them, send them my way. And that includes people who might have interest in subbing. We have 7, and I wanna make sure I say this to the camera so that anybody out there watching who thinks, you know, gosh, maybe substitute teaching might be in my future. I've got a gig for you, friend. We have 7 people signed up for our subclass so far that'll be offered later this month. We'd like to get at least 3 more. If you have any questions about it, feel free to call. Honestly, I am more than happy to take a call personally to answer questions about the subclass, because I'm just that excited about getting that rolling for people. And we're gonna host that here at the admin building, some food and fellowship as we go through the class, so I think it'll be a really neat time. I think we're gonna have fun with that. And then I have another important part of my message that I think Derek kind of wanted to share part of. There's a little announcement for tomorrow in school and.
Oh, no, I just wanted to push the button.
Yeah.
School is canceled tomorrow.
Yeah, school is canceled for
No,
tomorrow.
I wanted to make
Please
a
be
call.
safe.
We talked about this.
Yeah, we've.
We did.
it's already
We want the
done.
code.
We want the code.
He wanted to
Notify.
push.
I wanted the call. I wanted to make the actual call.
Yeah,
So next time I'll give you a call. We'll
yeah,
get you
we
one.
want the code.
Just once.
So if anybody's at home watching right now, no school tomorrow.
And
Stay safe.
We're all camping out here tonight.
That's my report.
Can we back up to where
Yes.
you were talking about the safety?
Yeah.
How long has it been, or do you have any plans to do a district-wide training with students and with the Alice?
So we have some requirement to do some. We did one last year where we came and did a lockdown drill with, I think, who came with you? I can't remember. Do you remember who you got?
We, I guess maybe what you're thinking,
Like
the
that
full
full-on.
on,
Like
the
escape.
full on
Everything.
Alice
Yeah.
with students, we haven't done that in a while.
Mm-hmm.
It is something that,
It's on our docket.
yeah,
Yeah.
we've talked about.
I was informed that this year's seniors had that in third grade.
Hmm.
Does that seem about right? Right.
8 or 9.
But, I mean, it doesn't matter, it's just.
Yeah, possibly,
Yeah,
possibly.
okay.
You know, it's just a personal observation, and I might be completely wrong on this. But I'm of the opinion that most school shootings will be prevented, not when we take care of the guns and not when we have more Alice training, but when we train our kids and our community. Somebody knew something. And when they do something, then we will eliminate this problem. But until we ignore mental health, we ignore that crazy uncle, okay? As long as we want to ignore those things, we're not gonna get a handle on this. And I just want, I don't know, are we doing anything in that area?
Mike, that takes money, that takes money, and I don't think our state is gonna provide that kind of money.
But what can we provide?
We're trying. That's where Lisa and I have been very careful about looking at what we spend our at-risk money on, to try to provide that. We applied for the Stronger Connections grant in order to put and received, in order to put a social worker at Lakeview, to try to increase our spending on student mental health. We have in our budget for a middle school counselor. Unfortunately, we were unable to get an applicant for that position this year. It was budgeted for, but no applicant that was qualified, so we've got that open for this year as well. And I'm hoping I get to a job fair and find a counselor and bring them home with us. We might bring them home that day as far as I'm concerned.
Shanghai.
Yeah, like, hey, we'll just hop in the car, we got space, we'll fit you in, we'll find someplace for you to stay tonight. You know, I think we have to continue to look at that, and I think to some degree that mental health piece can be about belonging. So I think when we talk about belonging for our students, a goal that I've not been abashed about sharing is that every student in our high school have something to belong to more than just going to class. And I think that's important because we want to make students feel like the school is their home and that there are people there who love them and care for them.
And Mike, I would echo that too. A board member from another district and I were actually talking this morning, kind of the same thing. You know, number one is it's got to start with our state legislature. You know, tomorrow night should be an interesting condition of the state address. I'm gonna try not to throw things in my TV, but you know, one thing, just go back to our last meeting. You know, Jacob Cairns was in here with the Green Bandana Project.
Yes.
So I think there's a lot of positive. There's kids, these kids are smart, and sometimes I feel we don't give them enough credit. We know what we want, we know what we need, but we gotta work with what we've got, and I think that's, you know, I hope this gets that conversation going further and gets that implemented. Because you're absolutely right, I mean, the mental health piece is huge.
When I see high school students stage a walkout, I'm thinking, that is absolutely worthless.
I disagree.
You cannot stage a walkout and think the legislator's gonna pass some law that's gonna stop the next gunman.
That makes them feel like they're doing something.
But
You know,
I
they feel
think-
powerless to
But
do
they,
anything else.
we need to give them the idea
So
that
now you gotta go up to
These
the
things
legislature.
have-
Whoa, 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 whoa.
it's okay.
One
It's
at a
okay.
time, one at a time.
Sure.
That's all I ask, one at a time.
Okay.
Go
Can I
ahead.
speak?
Yep.
Well, I thought, in our last meeting, Carol brought up the counselor that was helping the kids at school, and I didn't notice that, because, you know, you read through this, you don't understand everything, it's a lot. But I thought that was an excellent program to get that person into the school and help them. And, I just think that, yeah, if somebody's the loners in the school, we have to get to them the best we can.
I think we have to get to them early, because they can walk through the door as a kindergartner or first grader, and the mental health issues are already there.
You're
And so, just speaking from, you know, the teacher's standpoint, there have been many kids that have, you know, this kid really needs help, and I'm not equipped to help them, I don't know how, I don't have the tools, and, you know, and it's so hard to get them help.
And unfortunately, sometimes even, sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off, but sometimes even the social workers and counselors that we can hire as a school aren't properly equipped. I mean, we have, and I just looked at these statistics, I don't remember the exact numbers, but the number of the juvenile psychiatric beds available in our state is something like 1/5 of what our population would call for. So we see that regularly within our own school. I saw it in my previous school, and talked to colleagues around southeast Iowa that are dealing with that. When you have a kid with a major need, you don't have a lot of options. When it's obvious, I mean, you're even hearing from, you know, juvenile liaisons, this kid needs a psychiatric placement to get the help they need. Good luck. We kind of had to work around the system a little bit last year for a kid, and found out what hospital mom could take her kid to, that if you admit your child to this emergency room, they're connected to this mental health service, and they'll only take patients that are through their emergency room to fill their spots. So she had to drive to a specific hospital in Des Moines in order to get a psychiatric placement that, because of overcrowding in those placements, lasted only a week and only was good enough for a little bit of med management. We have a crisis of lack of mental health services, so that's where, you know, we can't replicate the whole mechanism of true psychiatric support for kids, but we do as much of that mechanism as we can through counseling, through social workers, through bringing in outside agencies that have come in to work with our kids, doing every little bit we can. And again, I still go back to connection being important. You know, we talk about, I think I've emailed with this group, it's been a while, about ACEs, Adverse Childhood Experiences, which are some items that happen during a childhood for a kid that often lead to poor adulthood outcomes. Things like witnessing abuse in the home, alcoholism in the home, you know, just a variety of different items that can happen to make childhood harder. There is a flip side to that. The study that was the flip side of the ACEs study came out a number of years later, and it's positive childhood experiences. And some of those are feeling a connection to like a community, feeling a connection to a community. So that's one that we have an impact on. Knowing that an adult in their life truly cares about what they need and feel, that's something that we have an impact on. And there's a few others in there. And I actually, last year, my letter to the staff for the beginning of the year included some of that research, just kind of sharing some of those snippets. And I think it's just, we're constantly reminding ourselves that, well, we don't have control over 16 hours of their life. We have control over 8 hours, and we can do everything we can in that 8 hours to try to improve the trajectory for that kid. You know, the last district I worked in their mission statement, they talked about having a profoundly positive impact on each student's adult quality of life. And I really felt like that's if you think about it, that's a pretty great mission to think about what kind of adult is this kid gonna be because of the work that we're doing for them. So I think we're constantly monitoring that. We review our categoricals all the time to figure out, can we slip in that extra thing that we know could make a difference? But until whoever makes the decision to provide us with what's really needed out there, we're playing catch up.
I wanna,
I want to give Derek a chance, because he kind of got cut off earlier. Did you want something to say?
No.
Okay.
you know, I've been in other groups, you know, from the organization I work for, and a couple other things. If we go to the legislature at a certain time, we have certain things, because, you know, when the profession I had, we had to kind of fight to make sure we could do certain things, and, you know, and we went around and talked to the legislature.
February 12th and 13th.
to-
That's the day on the hill for the IASB.
Yeah, and I will go there if I can, and we need to go and talk about the ADA, my gosh, what are they gonna do to the ADA? We need to have those different things that they do for the people, you know, I can think of the different things that the speech has helped my daughter and other people.
Did you get something in the mail from IASB about?
Yes, I did.
Okay, so if you still have that pamphlet?
I got
Okay, because that is, I don't know if you're planning on going, but,
it. Yeah, I'll go,
okay.
yeah.
Yeah.
But
We get to know them. You wanna go to Mike?
maybe.
Yeah.
But you know, sometimes it's not the counselor down the hall. And sometimes it's not the legislature that gives you the money. Sometimes it's just the kid sitting next to you in that seat. That just says something.
Yep.
And this,
Yeah.
are we
Okay.
doing anything to teach kids how to do that?
Yes, yeah, we are. So our social emotional learning that we do, and that's kind of a naughty word out there right now, right? Like that's kind of taken on this weird, some people think that means something that it doesn't. It just means treat people with dignity and respect and don't be a jerk to people, basically. And you can quote me on that, don't be a jerk to people is what we're trying to teach. And
It's a t-shirt.
yeah, and you know, honestly, I think a lot of the reason that we need to teach that now is we've got a lot of kids who are very engaged in this for a large portion of their life and not engaged in this. So we're teaching how do you interact with people, and Terry has been really tight on that is a #1 instructional item that we're doing at our elementary school, and we're doing a lot of work on how do you be a good friend? What does that mean? How do you, what do you do if you see something bad happening? You know, when we talk to kids, Carol, I guarantee you probably said this in your classroom, there's a difference between tattling and telling, right? Because everybody thinks like well, don't be a tattletale. Well, that doesn't mean when Joey's getting hit by Mike, we don't say anything about that to the teacher. We gotta say something about that. Or when somebody's being mean, we've gotta say that. And just kind of setting those, teaching kids how to be kind, how to be people that are part of contributing positively to society.
And I think you'll have a lot of teachers say, you know, I have so much on my plate, as far as we have to have, you know, 90 minutes of math and 90 minutes of language arts, and, you know, and on and on and on. When do you want me to fit? I think we need to give people permission, for lack of a better word, to take these moments and take this 5 minutes here when it's a really good life experience lesson, instead of, oh, we're gonna run through these math flashcards.
And I would put our teachers up against anybody for that, because I honestly believe that the people that we've got working for us are ones that do that. You know, I've seen otherwise, and we've got people who will stop and have that conversation of, you know, what just happened here was not okay. And here's how that probably made this person feel, which sounds all mushy-gushy and touchy-feely and everything, but it really is about teaching empathy. And we've got good people for that.
Because they don't, you know, we can't assume that they come to school knowing that. We have to teach them.
Yeah.
So one of my thoughts on this, we probably need to move on. We may need to have like a work session.
Yeah, sounds good.
Yeah. We have kids 7 to 8 hours a day. There's 16 to 17 hours a day we don't have them. And but the school sometimes is like on the spot to do the most. And it's probably because that's the most one-on-one time they have with an adult in front of them on a regular daily basis. But, you know, so I think part of the solution is how do you engage parents and other family members outside of school hours, because we only have them for less than a third of the time. And so we are a big part of the solution, but we're not the only part, and I think that has to be part of. Because what we're talking about here is when Mike and Mark got together and I came up and, you know, we have an emergency response plan, emergency operations plan, which is a response plan. We don't have a prevention plan. I don't know anybody if anybody can figure out how to do a prevention,
Mike said it,
right?
it's
It's,
prevention.
but that's what you're talking about, is a prevention.
That's the prevention part.
Right, and so if anybody can master prevention, then you're really doing something for kids. But I think that's what we're talking about, is how do we come up with a prevention plan? And it's gonna take people outside of school hours that are influencing their lives.
I don't think we spend too much time on that, but you can go to the legislature any day and meet your legislatures too,
Yeah.
and bug it. And it doesn't hurt to bug it, because they have to know there's things that are important in our district here.
Mhm.
Okay, all right, I think we're gonna move
Right.
on for
Can
superintendent's
I,
report. Go
can I
ahead.
preface all that conversation
Yeah.
with to say, the principal there in Perry tried it sounds like did a lot of effort to talk this young man down, and I think like none of this is to say that tragedy happened because they weren't doing prevention, because I guarantee they were. They're fighting the same fight we all are, which is where I think the statement from the sheriff's office, I think it was, that this could happen anywhere, is a fair statement.
Yeah. I think the prevention is not at the moment in the scene, it's
Yeah.
everything leading up to it.
Yeah.
Okay, that's a good point, okay. So we're gonna move on then to Better Boardmanship Award update. Mr. Moore, you up in Des Moines just claimed that you were gonna do this, so, you and Derek.
And boom, there it is, all of a sudden. No, just a couple things. I think we need to decide as a group, where we wanna put our award, and where we're gonna continue putting our awards. Do we wanna put them here in the administration building, or Derek, I know, had a suggestion of the trophy case. I like you, but,
No, I said Simon Estes.
oh, is that where you said? Okay,
Oh, Simon Estes, yeah.
so.
And
This
then when
should
we
be
get
the
the new
first,
one, that one
this should
gets
be the
swapped
first
out.
of many, so. I think it's important to, show what we do as board members for continuing education to help our district.
For me, I love seeing it here every time we walk in, and maybe I can get a cost, and we can I'll buy us another one, but for me personally, I think that needs to be at the highest trafficked area in our district for our students and our community members to see this.
Any objections?
Suggestions, or where, I mean,
So you're suggesting Simon Estes?
Mhm.
I like that idea a lot.
I've been waiting my whole life for this, make it so.
Oh, gosh. Jean-Luc,
just going along with that, I guess, we are kind of pushing everybody to make sure you get your training hours in, your educational hours in. Two board members and Mark have hit the required hours already for, the award for next year. Several people are close, so,
we just had 2 people complete, Ready, Set, Govern insurance, and
Yep.
was that that was this week?
Thursday.
Do you know how many points you got for that?
I didn't even know we were supposed to be getting points.
Well, that's okay.
But you have points.
We'll bring you up to speed.
Oh, please do.
Did you get 3 for that,
I
Tom?
can do it if I know I'm supposed to do
I
it.
guess I get points.
You do.
You do, you get some hours for that,
All
right.
Definitely.
Yeah, as of right now.
because you may qualify
yeah, you got
that.
3.
So was this, where do you, what?
Okay, so anytime, if you take a continuing education class or learning opportunity on IASB website,
Okay.
you can get credit, for those points.
Some of them are even interesting.
So they got,
And that's just
all of them are interested.
Carol, this will be a lesson learned for you. This is why you want to go to convention next year, because you get 12 out of the 15 points you need.
Well, if
It's-
I know about it, I
Yep.
go.
Sorry.
It's okay.
So yeah, anytime you
this
take
way
a
you gotta
class on the
make it.
IASB website,
And then it automatically feeds the points into where they need to go, or.
Actually, you
No,
gotta
it
tell
doesn't.
me and I log it in for you.
Oh.
there's a place where you can.
Ask Mark to send you the link.
I was gonna say, I can do that too,
Please do that.
and you can log
Okay.
them in, but it's probably just easier if I just do
Okay.
it for everybody.
All right.
Send me some stuff.
Yeah,
Send
I'll
me
get you
some
covered.
stuff.
We'll get-
I got you,
So, but let's
guys.
let Mark,
Yeah.
Mike finish.
So moving forward, I guess, as long as everybody does that, we'll be on board for the next convention in November for annual board award and the team achievement award again, so, okay. There is gonna be a work session in February
Yep.
with IASB. We will get credit for,
We don't know how many
Yeah.
hours yet.
One.
2 or 3.
1, 2, 3, just depends.
It'll be 2 or 3.
Yeah.
And I did end up getting 1 point for our board retreat last year. I
How many
just-
points do you need?
15.
Self,
Oh, 13.
self-evaluation, I didn't get there. You gotta start.
So, we're gonna keep updating every so often and get your points.
So you probably.
Have it here.
We can let you, I can also share out whenever I get a point opportunities to those
Yeah.
boards.
So
you guys can
let's
help out.
make this interesting.
Oh, boy.
Oh, boy.
Let's just not settle for the minimum. Let's see who can get the most points by convention.
Is there a prize?
Bragging rights.
Oh.
Bragging rights.
Now,
Well,
ultimately,
we'll do
Okay,
it.
so a little serious on this, so things
Points
like
are-
Day in the Hill, you'll get some points.
yeah,
Yeah.
All right.
Mike's pretty good with prizes, I heard.
yes.
So,
So, honestly, I mean, let's look at this, I guess, beyond points, and it's about learning.
Yeah.
It's about making ourselves better board members, so that's what it's about. I mean, we all know that Derek's gonna try for 300 points now, but, you know,
I don't
so.
think there's that many modules on there.
I'll find a way.
But the education, you know, continuing ed to put our money where our mouth is for our
And
staff.
I would tell you guys, from my, year and a half vacancy, I mean, going through a lot of that, it helped me tremendously.
Yeah. to me, it's about, it's the education of the better board member, and it is about leading by example. Okay,
So there's your update on that.
okay,
Thank you.
so we'll start with board takeaways, we'll start with Derek.
No.
You wanna go first? Go first.
Jeez. I don't know, I wasn't ready.
All right, Derek.
Yeah, it was a good meeting. Good job, Mike, on your boardmanship updates, and
Thank you.
let's make it a challenge so we can make sense.
Well,
Go ahead,
I'm
Tom.
gonna answer, well, no, I don't need to.
No, you go ahead.
No, go ahead, I'm just gonna go around the room, I left my sheet at home, so.
Okay. Well, I just wanted to say that, you know, I've tried to update my technical stuff, and, I've got a lot of good help from Kate. Did I get the name right?
Yeah.
Yeah, she's really good help, and that helped me. Going to the, well, I won't take that from Carol.
No, I'm not gonna talk about that, cause I got something different now.
Well, okay.
Go ahead.
Going to that meeting last Thursday night, even though I'd been to the board meeting up there, it was totally different, and the questions were so different in the small school districts, around us had really good questions and kind of helps you know what you shouldn't do too, so it was still very valuable, and meeting new people is always good, you learn from other people.
And just so you know, that Tammy girl about text me, she says, I just want you to know Tom and Carol are here. So I knew, she reported, yeah, I got spies.
Was that
Mike.
a good message or a bad?
I wish
She
you
liked
liked
that.
that.
She told
I
me.
like that very much.
Like, Tony.
I guess I'm sorry to hear we're going to lose Mecca. She's been a real asset to our school district for a good long time. But I, wish her well, in whatever happens. And I guess I enjoyed the closed sessions, and I felt that we did a good job. And it's a learning thing. Guess that's all I got.
Carol.
Just to add on to the, I said I wasn't gonna talk about it, but last Thursday at the meeting that Tom and I went to for the class, I really think the public has a very, and I know I did, a very, wrong perception of what a board member can actually do and not do. And so I found that to be very interesting. And then also, I really liked our discussion tonight about safety. It's a huge discussion, and I hope that we continue to talk about it. So, thank you.
Good.
It looks like we've done a good job managing this winter storm. We really haven't had one like this for probably a while, but it'll be interesting to see how the packets go over. So, now elementary, hopefully we have nice participation.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Get better at
There was some of that went on during COVID, and it was, I mean, I think you had the kids participate, but you could kind of, yeah, the other ones that went through them.
Be watching that one close.
Yeah.
I'll pull them on winter break. You guys can go ahead and just do all these.
Said that to our kids. Doggone it, Larry.
They wouldn't touch anything over winter break.
Yeah.
My youngest wanted to, and I told him, no, you gotta wait.
Right. So for my takeaway, a couple days, one, I want to thank Lisa for putting acronyms, if you saw that.
Yes.
List of acronyms, it could-
Going.
people ask for that, that's probably a good thing to print off and kind of be a little aware and all that kind of stuff. And then the other thing is more of a, here's what's gonna happen at the work session in January is, I need to talk to you about those, you're gonna get a packet of information that, from Tammy and I, that you are gonna look at, and we want you to fill this information out back by the next regular scheduled board meeting, because we're gonna take and use that for the work session in February. So you're gonna have a couple weeks, it won't take a lot. And what it is, it's gonna be an assessment. And in, on the ISB work, on the website, there is a list of how a board can do a self-assessment. And you're just gonna go through and do the self-assessment, and we're gonna take the scores and plot it on a chart, on a graph that most of you have probably never seen before, and be a circular radar plot. And we'll kind of explain how we're gonna go through and do all that as far as what we're gonna set as a priority as a board is how we get better as a board collectively. So that's the process that we're gonna go through in the work session in February. So I hadn't updated, because Tammy and I talked about this a couple days ago, so. You and I have talked about it previously, but I just talked to Lisa, text Tammy. So be prepared for 2 weeks to get a packet, do a little homework.
Guess I'm just gonna take this time. Talking about school safety. When something like this occurs, there's a million different questions, a million different concerns. I guess what's important to know is what works for one school doesn't work for all schools. Each one is separate, each building is different. I take great pride my entire adult life to making sure safety and security for not only schools but community. And we have put in, over the last several years, great ideas, great concepts to help keep our students and staff as safe as possible. There is no foolproof. Gonna throw that out there. But the procedures that most people are not aware of and shouldn't be aware of are designed to keep everybody as safe as possible.
I would just throw out there that even as a board, we don't know those, nor do we necessarily need to or want to, so it's.
Thank you for everything that you and your colleagues do.
With that, I'd like to thank Lisa, and I think we should have a motion to adjourn so her fingers get a break from making 1,000,000 minutes tonight.
So moved.
Second.
Motion and a second to adjourn. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
All right.
Aye. All opposed. Cameron, thank you.